Hey y'all, hey, we back for another review of Sisters. We're on season 8, episode 2, entitled Tea Time. Forgive the appearance, I just got home from the gym. It was now or never. Alright, so last episode the whole gang was being questioned by the FBI agents. We found out that Gary did not pass away. Because we all know that evil never dies, right? Okay, and then Robin shows up for Andy as her counsel. So we pick up there and Robin tells Agent Watt that Wyatt, whatever his name is, that the interview is over, and we learn like his angst, his visceral issue, his hate for Andy is because she derailed his federal investigation. She changed her mind about testifying, and she ended up almost marrying Gary, and he can't fathom what could be the reason. Now, if you just use your logical mind, let's be honest, like, you are an FBI agent and you know that a lot of people get married, you know, whether by force or with being paid or whatever the issue is, so that they don't have to testify against somebody. Simple, you know, it's legalese 101, and I ain't got no damn degree. You should know that. Either way, Robin asked, like, hey, has she formally been charged? If the answer is no, then she can go ahead and go. And then she tells Robin, she was like, yeah, I came here voluntarily. And he's looking at her like, girl, you know better. Like, why in the hell would you be here answering these types of questions or being held hostage when you don't have to be? Either way, Robin drops basically drops his nuts and tells him, like, hey, we leaving. That's the end of the conversation. Like, don't forget that I know your boss, but I also know your boss's boss. And one simple call will go ahead and make that job, you know, non-existent for you. So we're going to go ahead and head out. And so, you know, whatever. It's nice to have friends in high places, obviously, because Andy is acting like a damn dummy, like she's not a lawyer. Either way, and then Robin tells Andy, like, hey, we don't have to be here. Gary didn't die, like, anyway. And she's like, well, why did you even tell me that he had passed away? And he's like, listen, I only did that to see how emotional you would get over the thought of him being gone. And he was like, yeah, there were tears, and you appeared to be a sad fiance. However, the tears didn't move me. So you baited her in at the thought of Gary could be no longer with us, right? And she gave you an emotional reaction, which is what you were looking for, and you still did not buy it. Like, you want her to be guilty because she changed her mind. And it's giving a classic case of blaming the victim, but I digress. Either way, now he has to stick up his ass about Andy changing her mind, and we know that he's going to give her hell throughout the remainder of the season, and it is going to annoy me. All right. Gary's assistant, forgot his name. Either way, he is begging the doctor to tell him every detail of what happened. And he tells him, like, yeah, he did get stabbed in a major artery. And as we were, you know, doing surgery, he did pass away on the table because of that, and he ended up having a heart attack. So now he is really touch and go. We've repaired what was broken, given him a lot of blood thinners and fixed the blood clots, a lot of different things that was going wrong with him. And again, he's still touch and go. He tells the doctor, you know, do all you can for Gary. That's my friend, and money is no object. And he just cannot perish like this. Like, he can't go out like this and give Andy the satisfaction. And it appears, I don't know, I'm conflicted. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. I'm conflicted as to whether he's really thinking that Gary is his friend and he's worried about his friend passing away, and Andy having something to do with that, either by way of just being in a relationship with her, or I don't know, y'all. I kind of feel like he did it. I don't know. Tell me what y'all think. I just feel like he did it because he is inundated with the fact of putting it on Andy, for one, and for two, he is obsessing on, like, the absolute details. What happened? Did he make it? Is he, like, I think he was the only person to go to the hospital to figure out if he had actually perished. And so, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the conversation, I can't come up with what the conversation would have been that would make him turn on Gary. You know, I'm not really sure, unless Gary, like Tamara tells Hayden, she tells Hayden later in the episode, like, hey, Gary is nobody's friend. So did he prove that to you, and you went over the edge because you had did so much conspiring with him that pissed you off, knowing that he really wasn't on your side? He was just using you like everybody else in his life, and you went ahead and got your ones? I'm not really sure, but let me know what y'all think. It's not giving, like, I'm really, 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 really worried about my friend and hope that my friend does not pass away, because I need him here. He's spending a lot of his time trying to convince everybody that it's Andy's fault and that Andy is the one that did it. I don't know. I'm conflicted. Let me know what y'all think. All right, and so we see Danny and Tony, and she's still trying to get some sexual healing, right? And Tony it's becoming so much for him that he's becoming uncomfortable, and he's truly worried about her and her feelings and what she's actually got going on in her mind about everything that's happening. And he recommends that she schedule an appointment with the therapist just to check out her mental and just to see what's really going on with her, because she has a lot going on. And he tells us here that he wants to show her that there's something more that he can offer her other than physicality. And we also heard that by way of Rich telling that to Sabrina later on in the episode. So we're just going to go ahead and assume that all of these guys are going to be proving or setting out to prove that they are valuable to these women outside of the bedroom, which in the natural progression of relationship would that actually make sense, because a lot of them just haven't been doing much of nothing but hunching and arguing at this point. So sure. All right. Tamara scrolls on in and she's looking at Hayden like, where would you finna go, Playboy? Where you going? And Hayden claims that he was headed out to a business trip, quote unquote, and she ain't buying it at all. He is still mad that she slept with his friend Gary, and she lets him know like, hey, if you really think that Gary was your bestie, you're pathetic and you're sadly mistaken. To think that Gary was ever anybody's friend, will ever be anybody's friend, just go ahead and let that dream die. And she also tells him like, hey, whatever he got is exactly what he deserves. And whoever did it, they messed him up pretty bad. And she claims she heard about it earlier when she was on her way over there, if I'm not mistaken. Not sure how she would have gotten that information. It wasn't broadcasted on the news, was it? Well, yeah, I guess it was, because somebody was listening. Hayden was listening to the news, and the news was saying whatever. Who cares? Then she says she heard about it earlier, and then she asked Hayden. She was like, "You got something to tell me?" And he is like, "What you talking about?" She was like, "Well, you did learn about me and Gary hours before that wedding. It's very much coincidental." That something ended up happening to Gary. And so Hayden claims like, listen, it could have been any of the other people that he has made enemies with, like really. And also, you're not that great of a prize. So Hayden is telling Tamara like, you really think that I stabbed Gary over your trifling ass? Like, B word, please. And she was like, yeah, whatever. And then she threatens to go to the cops to mention that, to basically mention his name and potentially put him up at the top of the suspect list, because he has a pretty grand motive when it comes to people that should be looked at. All right, so Rich and Sabrina, they're kind of fooling around to take their mind off of the day, and she kind of cock blocks him, because she did go through with the egg retrieval. We did not get to see that process, but we see her. Well, she tells us that she went through with the egg harvesting process, and she has to abstain for 2 weeks, just so things can settle down, so that we have no complications. And he tells her like, hey, it'll give him a chance to be there for her in a different capacity, other than physicality. Like 2 weeks is going to be long. It's really not that long, but that's where they are. We haven't had the conversation about, well, we'll talk about that later. Either way, Pam is over at Karen's, and she's there under the guise of being the best friend that's here to help her friend out. But of course, she is not there. But also, we get a confirmation in the scene that Pam cut Karen in as a business partner. Again, we did not see that happen logistically in the last season, but we know that Karen is now a business partner. As opposed to paying her money, she made her a partner, which is by the end of the scene was probably a wise idea, because We'll get to it. Either way, the real reason that Pam is there to come and see what the hell happened to Gary, and Karen is not coming off any information. And so that's where that scene ends, and we'll pick that back up later on in the episode. Robin walks Andy up to her penthouse, and Andy admits that she was real close to telling the FBI agent the real reason for changing her mind. Again, by profession, your job is to stall, you know, lie as much as you need to lie. Like, that is your job by profession. And you let this FBI agent, there was no brand new FBI tactics that I saw him utilizing. I mean, his style of interrogation was something that any cop would do. Try to force a confession out of you, leave you in that room for hours, not give you any food, and that's just standard Chattanooga Police Department type of strategy. So there wasn't any waterboarding or anything happening that will make you admit to it. Either way, he asked her, like, hey, why were you about to marry him? Like, if I'm gonna be your counsel, I kind of really need to know. Did he have something hanging over your head? Like, it's pretty simple to figure that out. And she's like, you know, let's talk about that later. Like, let me process some stuff and then we'll talk about it later. But how did you know I was being questioned? And it turns out that an old colleague of his let him know that somebody from his firm was being questioned, and he came back. He also came back because of Leland's passing and to help with the transition until all of this is over with Gary, because we know that Andy is, and hopefully still is, up for partner. Things are not turned over and settled just yet. You know, there's a transition that has to take place. And so he's there to assist, and hopefully all of this legal crap that she's going through won't impede that. I would really hate for Gary's dumbass to be the reason that she would lose his partnership. So fingers crossed. All right. See, he also heard, well, anyway, we also learned that she's holding it against him that he didn't say goodbye before leaving the last time. I don't give a damn, because what we're not going to do, I was going to wait and say this to the end of the episode, but what we're not going to do is the love interest thing with Robin and Andy again. You got enough on your plate, and he's going to tell you in a minute, like, you need to be the doting, sad fiance. That's all you need to be worried about. Just settle down. Anyway, Hayden turns the issue back on Tamara. He's like, hey, you also have motive as well. I'm sure he made you a bunch of promises about being with you and running off together, and he let you down, right? And she's kind of moved by the statement, even though I think she sold herself those dreams. I don't think Gary ever sold her any of those dreams, either way. But she reminds him, like, hey, your motive is as old as time. And, you know, jealousy over a woman. And again, he tells her, I think I already mentioned it, but he tells her, like, hey, you're not worth doing any amount of time over, sweet pea. It's not worth it. And then he tells her that he sent a copy. What? Then he tells her, hey, remember that video you showed me of Gary abusing you? I sent a copy of that to myself, and I would threaten to go to the cops at that, because that's also a high value motive from that man abusing you. And Tamara's like, you thought that was real? I guess I did a pretty good job. She tells him, like, listen, that was a fake video. I really made that up with an editing app. Like, Gary didn't do nothing I didn't want him to do, if you catch her drift. And so, yeah, like, you don't have anything on me, which, okay, that makes sense now that she was trying to blackmail Gary with a fabricated tape. So, you know, like she said, the FBI would be able to, the cops would be able to tear that apart as soon as I showed them that it was an editing app. I don't have a real motive. And so Hayden realizes, like, hey, they both kind of need each other through this process. And so they're going to kind of lock in and not dime each other out. Maybe. I don't know how that makes any sense, why your biggest enemy, she was your biggest enemy just earlier in the day, and now y'all are locked in to not snitch on each other. Don't like it, because he was really ready to sell you out, Tamara, because he had packed all his things, and I think he's still going to do it. He's just, you know, getting his rocks off in the process. Whatevs. All right. Rich and Sabrina, they're still chilling, and he is preoccupied with all that she's preoccupied with all that's happening with Andy, but Rich, he doesn't like Andy, and he has an issue because your boy Jordan was hurt about her, and so he's giving, like, aggression when it comes to Andy. He don't really like her, he don't really care. So he's not really showing any compassion in the situation. But he does tell her that he has a fertility appointment today, and again, she's reiterating and asking him consistently asking him over and over again, like, is this really what you want to do? And she was like, listen, you don't got to do this. Like, this ain't your dream. And he's like, listen, my dreams can change. You know, of course, I'd never wanted kids, but, you know, with each moment that I spend with you, that goal changes day by day, and I'm going to be excited to be here. And what the hell ever. It's annoying me because it's not going to be that way. Because his reasonings is built on jealousy and bravado and ego, so it's not going to last, and it's going to piss me off. All right, Pam tells Karen that Rags to Riches is doing pretty good. You know, the samples were a good idea. You know, making a little bit of money. Things are happening. We got a lot of social media following. But Miss Willis wants a business plan from them. And of course, Pam don't even know what a business plan is, much less has one in place. And so Karen tells Pam that there are grants out there for Black women, you know, starting out, small business grants, you know, minority grants. There's a bunch of different type of grants, just to name a few. And that is how she got her feet started with the salon. And so she's going to work with Sabrina to kind of figure out some of these grants and work out this business plan and some other logistical stuff. So Pam's going to be like the social media, the marketing face of the thing. And then Karen's going to be like the back office paperwork leg of the thing. And so that is why I said earlier that it was probably a good idea that she came on as a partner, because like Pam admitted, she doesn't have the business mindset, and considering the fact that Karen already has a business, she's kind of going through some of this trial and error, and so that's going to save Pam some grief in the long run, and it's also going to fare Karen well because she's going to make more in this realm as opposed to just being paid back her initial investment amount, so to speak. All right. Sabrina is headed to work, and again, Rich is worried about her. Don't be stressing about everything that's going on with Andy. She's a big girl. She got herself into this. Don't mess up your day worried about it. And she's getting a little concerned now because you're putting a little bit much on my best friend. You're putting 20 on 10, like you're really putting a lot on her, and he's mad because of the fallout. Like he's like, hey, just look at how everyone around her is affected. Like she's basically like trying to call her poison to everybody she comes into contact with. Like, look at Gary, he ended up, you know, stabbed, and Jordan's life fell apart, and she got all of her girlfriends in there being questioned about something that she probably done, and she got all y'all roped into that. And so he thinks that Andy could have avoided all this if she had just kept it 100 with Jordan, and let that man know that she really wanted to be with Gary and not him, and she would have stayed away from Gary. None of this would be happening. So Andy is the poison that ruined everybody's lives. Whatever, Rich. And so I guess he's gonna keep that up in the season, just kind of being angry towards Andy, and that's really not the tree you need to be barking up, but what the hell ever. All right. After Tamara put that thing on Hayden, he apologizes for all the nasty stuff he said to her, and she apologizes for sleeping with Gary, and he seems to think that they could actually work out, and she agrees. This is all verbal, and the second he leaves the room, she turns her nose up because she's like, she ain't buying it. Like, she's probably just trying to keep him locked in so that he doesn't try to set her up, and I'm not sure. I haven't decided if he really believes this, because that was just like, that one little nut changed your mind? What? No, like he was really ready to like plant evidence type set her up. So I just think they just like giving Mr. and Mrs. Smith type vibes, like stabbing each other in the back while being in this pseudo relationship. So whatever. All right, Robin is asking Andy about Jordan, and she does realize like, oh yeah, I forgot about Jordan. Like, pretty much like Gary is out the way for the time being. Like, I can go be with my man for real, like my real man. And she does slip up and imply that Gary is blackmailing her, and now she wants to rush out to see Jordan and check on his well-being. And Robin is like, no ma'am, you can't do that. You need to play the concerned fiance right now. Like, you really need to go to the hospital and be asking about Gary's well-being, because I'm sure that the FBI is watching you, and to see you with your ex while your fiance is in ICU, it's not going to be the greatest look. It doesn't really matter what you say. It's going to matter what it looks like. And so you need to be over there trying to pretend as if you give a damn. I know you don't, but it's where we are. And she is literally begging him like, please don't make me do this. And he's like, listen, it's where we are. And so this is what we have to deal with. And then the girls come strolling into her penthouse unannounced, while her and Robin are getting a little bit more cozy than I would prefer. And so I'm sure we're going to pick up with that next week. Either way, like I said earlier, Andy, girl, you don't have time for any more romantic interests, whether that's Robin, whether that's Jordan, whether it's a cup of coffee. You just don't have time. You got a lot on your plate and you need to settle down. You need to be working on getting yourself together with your partner stuff, making sure that's still settled. You don't have time for anything. But that's just me. Either way, let me know what y'all think about the episode. Season 8, episode 2. Like, comment, share, subscribe, or whatever it is that you feel like doing. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.